Good afternoon and good morning. This is Ethan Perry, Director of Content at Loyalty 360, welcoming you to another edition of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty Industry Voices series. In these episodes, we talk to the leading agencies, technology partners, and consultants in the customer, channel, and brand loyalty world about the technology, the trends, and the best practices that impact the ability of brands to drive unique experiences, enhance engagement, and most importantly, enhance customer loyalty. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Nowell Outlaw and the CEO at Switchfly. Welcome, Nowell.
Hi, morning.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Can you start by telling our audience a little bit about yourself, your role with Switchfly, and your background?
Sure. I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? I've done all kinds of things. I've owned my own software company. I actually owned a small uh, air charter business in Broomfield for a period of time. I ran prior to Switchfly. I ran a artificial intelligence and machine learning company, you know, venture backed and all those things in the Bay Area. And started with Switchfly about 3.5 years ago, which is a travel, basically loyalty platform for driving experiences to consumers. I'm the CEO. I've kind of been a CEO almost my entire career. That's just one of those things that you kind of learn to do. So,
Excellent. Awesome. Well, can you tell our audience who may not be familiar a little bit more about Switchfly and
sure.
how you support brands' loyalty efforts, what you guys do and what industries you work with?
Sure. I mean, I tell people jokingly that Switchfly is the silent partner that you've never heard of, right? So we drive primary. Switchfly is a 20-year-old company, and we have been in the loyalty space for 20 years, actually 21 years, and primarily servicing travel, right? And travel loyalty programs are a big deal, right? I mean, anyone who's flown, the people basically on the plane, right? The flight attendants handing out, join the, XYZ airline credit card thing, earn points, do this, do that. Loyalty is a big deal in travel. And Switchfly specializes in powering vacation programs. So we are a completely white labeled engine that is sitting kind of behind the scenes, but also in front of the scenes. So we are the user experience. We are the booking engine for everything from flights to hotels to car rentals to activities. We power some kind of key brands like American Airlines, JetBlue Airlines, vacation products, and also American Express on a global scale internationally. So we're a global company. We have just under 200 employees, but we operate effectively 7 by 24 by 365 on a spinning the earth in a circle basis because we're all over the place.
Very cool. So as a global brand there working with people across, travel, how do you define customer loyalty and what does that mean to your organization?
So what's interesting is that we actually transitioned the company about 2.5 years ago, so that we're actually beyond just a travel company. So we're actually, as a tech company, we're actually also a travel agency. So now we're actually the seller and record of travel as well. And, loyalty in travel is very specific about, what are you providing to that consumer for that experience. And what we're seeing is that, we're powering both individual travel sales, right, for people where they can reward themselves with travel, as well as, our customers where it's using your points. So if I have points on American Airlines, I can actually cash those points in as well as add additional funds in order to buy my vacation to Hawaii. Make sense?
Yeah, very cool. That's an interesting place to be right now with all of the shifts happening. We saw in our most recent state of customer loyalty report that 79% of brands in general have an interest in updating, enhancing, or redoing their loyalty offerings.
Correct.
Do you see like specific places in your industry where someone's leading the charge in loyalty innovation and what are they doing differently right now?
Yeah, I mean, so what we found, you know, we at Switchfly, right? So very specifically travel, right? So just narrow in on what we do. Um, about 2.5 years ago, we were trying to figure out, okay, when we look at the market and we want to basically start this journey for our own business about I want to service new loyalty programs who have not addressed the travel segment, right? If you think about credit cards fixed the travel problem 10 years ago, right? Like everybody, oh, I get the venture card, I get this card, I get America. Like that's a fixed market. It's those players have made their vendor decisions. It's not an open field, right? And so the interesting market that we opened up and unlocked was in the what's called the HR tech or the rewards and recognition space, which I consider, brand loyalty is coming through your employer, right? So your employer is giving you points, just like you get points for a credit card to redeem for merchandise, gift cards, those kinds of things. And what we found was that none of the vendors in that space had travel as a segment, right? We did a bunch of market research into that space, and it was like, hey, all these vendors really want travel, right? And even the consumers, right, the ultimate consumers are like, why do I keep having to buy gift cards, right? Because that's a bad process. Why can't I have travel as an experience and use my points to buy travel? So that's what we did. The interesting thing is we started that about 2 years ago, and we've gone from zero, and we now have about 25 million consumers around the world who can exchange their points for Switchfly for travel using the Switchfly platform.
Yeah, that's interesting. We recently just published an industry perspectives article about the importance of engaging with your employees to make your customer facing loyalty program more successful, and how
Correct.
you engage with those internal customers reflects how you engage with your external customers, So that's very cool. So, among like the new technologies everyone's talking about, AI, there's a lot of discussion about gamification, zero party and first party data collection. What do you think is going to have the biggest impact on customer loyalty programs in 2025, and why?
Um, I think it's AI, and understand I spent 5 years running an AI company, right? So I have a kind of a background in this. Um, we trained over 1 billion data points to build our data models, right? And I think the thing that loyalty programs will start to learn is they will start to learn um, the persona, really the persona of who their consumer really is, right? And there's the data collection piece and all this other stuff, but what I'm talking about is if you think about Netflix, right? Like Netflix isn't a loyalty program, but boy, consumers sure are loyal to Netflix, right? And if you think about the engagement with a platform like that, it's smart enough to know in a lot of ways what you want next, right? And I think that as loyalty engages and some of these models and things get smarter, what you're going to see is, hey, before you're thinking about it, in our case, here's a vacation package to Hawaii, and you were just thinking about the vacation package to going to Hawaii, right? Or here's, if you like vacation packages to beach resorts, here's 3 beach resort kind of things, right? And there's some of this engagement is happening, but I think that the loyalty programs are going to start to get smarter about this, right? Where it's tailored to fit the consumer ahead of when they're thinking about it. And that's just, we see that all over the place. I mean, oftentimes people joke about, Google serves me an ad and I was just thinking about that. And people are checking their cell phones going, is the microphone on? And it's like, no, no, the microphone's not on. It's just smart enough to predict, right? Predictive behaviors. And I think loyalty will over time start having some of that stuff that's starting to get there.
Very cool. And that kind of leads into the next question is like, as those customer interactions continue to span both digital and physical channels, with the addition of AI into that mix, like how should loyalty programs integrate both in-store and online experiences so that that is always a seamless and cohesive customer journey no matter where they connect with you?
Yeah, that's a hard one, right? So, one of our customers is a hotel, right? And they are working on this. It is extremely hard. And if you think about a hotel being in store, right? What they're looking for is, when you go to their resort, right? So you've purchased a room, you've purchased a trip, but now when you're walking around the resort, the reader boards are offering you things that are specific to you, right? So as you walk by things, the things that you're seeing might be relevant for your agenda at the resort, right? And things like that. And you you know, think about Disney, like as they can tailor stuff specifically for you, right? I think that the you're going to start to see that integration. So it's recommendations, regardless. It doesn't matter if you're in the store or you're out of the store. If you think about, if anyone's been on an airplane lately, right? The very cool thing about the iPhone is, if you're using the United app or Air Canada app or American Airlines app, when you land at the airport, it tells you where to go, right? So you're now transitioning from a digital experience to an in-store experience, right? Where now I'm in the airport, now I'm walking around. Now all of a sudden, right, I know you're at the airport, you're a points consumer, right? You have a 3 hour layover. What are the recommendations that I could make to you, right? Here's a $5 off coupon to go to Elways at DIA, right? Here's a $5 off coupon or cash in your points at Snooze in the Denver airport, Concourse B upstairs. I go there all the time. But those kinds of things, right? If you think about the digital in-store going from device, right? Device to the in-store experience, that's what's going to start happening, right? You're on the plane, you're bored. Hey, here's an idea, right? Recommendation. And now it's going to drive your behavior kind of in the airport for what you do before you go to your next flight. I see that coming immediately.
Amazing. I mean, I would love to get a coupon during a layover for sure. So I
Correct.
think that's a great, example of how those kind of personalization things can hit people where it's adding value for everyone involved.
For sure.
Awesome. So what are the most common reasons that loyalty programs, in your opinion, fail to meet their goals, and how can some of your how can brands address those issues?
Um, I think that, specifically in travel, right? So, how Coca-Cola runs their program, I'm, no idea. But I think in travel, it's it's making sure that you're matching the consumer need with what you're offering, right? So, um, if you're primarily servicing North America, right? A lot of consumers stay within North America. So you have to make sure that you're not offering the wrong thing, right? And what I mean is, you know, uh, like trips to Iceland as an example in the middle of December. Well, who wants to do that, right? That's not a big deal. A trip to Cancun in August. Well, that's hot. Like that doesn't match, right? But a trip during spring break to Cancun. Well, that's different, right? And so I think the trick is the the thing is making sure you're really thinking through the buyer consumer relationship and what you're targeting with them to actually do, right? So it's a lot about segmentation of your consumers as well.
So what do you think is working really well for some of your clients right now when it comes to building successful loyalty programs and strategies? And if you have an example or two you could share, we'd love to hear about it.
A lot of them are it's really about promotions and offers and deals and enhancements, right? So if I'm a loyalty member, well, what do I get for that? Right? Airlines are great at this, right? So, if you do X, we'll give you Y, right? Sign up for the gift card, sign up for the credit card, we'll give you 80,000 bonus miles. If buy this thing now, we'll give you triple, right? Things like that. And I think that is a winning strategy in air specifically, which is, basically rewarding the consumers, right? And the other thing that you see is as you build up loyalty status, right? that you're getting more and more successful as a consumer in what loyalty you get, right? So that could be a hotel, that could be an airline, things like that. So if you're a frequent flyer, 25,000 miles, but if you're a 1K flyer, you get a whole different kind of rewards, if you will, to maintain that engagement.
So, what do you think are the most critical metrics that brands can be using right now to track the success of their loyalty programs over the course of this year?
Yeah, it's engagement for sure. I think the biggest thing is, are the consumers engaged? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. Um, and we are starting to see in certain spots a little bit of weakness in the market, right? For travel. And the biggest thing is really tracking, are the users coming back? Are they engaged? Are they shopping? Or is my general user population, are things slowing, right, in the market? That's the biggest conversation over the last month I've had across every customer, which is, do you have a perception that things are slowing down?
Mm,
Right.
mhm. So, are there any other metrics that you think are being underutilized or overlooked when people are looking at their programs?
Um, I think that, you know, um, not especially. I mean, these programs are metric driven beyond belief, right? So it's kind of hard to find a metric that you say, well, that's not really working. Um, I always pay attention to things like, what's the average cart size? How, what the consumer is loading up on, right? And in our case, is it increasing or is it decreasing? And that's an important metric, right? Because with what we do, we've got programs that run, their average cart size may be $8,000, right? Versus other ones that are doing $600. Well, if all of a sudden that starts changing, that might change, the like when consumers feel that they're flush, right? So flush with cash, the stock market's going up, things like that, they're okay with spending more, right? Well, it's okay to book the 5-star hotel. It's okay to do, and there's some consumers that don't care about that stuff at all. But what you'll see is that as there's, you know, trepidation in the market, little concerns here, concerns there. Now it's okay to stay at the 4-star hotel, right? So instead of the five, we're going to the four, and instead of paying, $500 a night, we're paying $300 a night, right? And so any kind of shifts in that dimension is probably something people need to pay closer attention to. That's a hard one though to assess. So
So, are there any programs out there that you admire or that you're loyal to from, in a customer loyalty program? And what do you like about their offerings?
um I don't live on airlines anymore. I used to. I think that the airlines do a great job at customer loyalty. They really pay attention to their high value customers, including, I don't know what I did with it, but I was on a flight back um, from Germany, like, I don't know, a month ago, and I think I have my book in here, and I'm sitting up in the front of the plane. It's a long trip. And, you know, and this is what I mean by taking care of your customer as a loyalty person. And I don't have it. The flight attendant, the head purser on the plane, I was asleep, leaves me a note, right? Dear Mr. Outlaw, happy birthday, because it was my birthday, right? Signed by the captain with a card, right? Like, let me tell you, like that level of attention to a consumer sitting on your airplane, like that's great customer service. And I think that airline, they just do a good job at that stuff, right? Um, and I think a lot of loyalty programs can learn from some of those examples, right? Where it's like really paying attention to your high value customers in such a consumer friendly way.
That's amazing. What a cool experience to get that nice personalized thing. Really, especially when you're traveling. I'm sure it brightened your day and gave you a little bump for that long flight.
Yeah, it was great. So, and it like, it had me engage with her. And then I actually took a picture of it with her name and I sent it into United. I didn't hear a reply, but I'm like, this is awesome, right? This is like really, really, I believe in that about taking care of your customers because I think it's important. And it's like nice to see people that think the same way.
Awesome. So, do you have any closing advice or thoughts on, loyalty programs in general that you want to share with our audience?
Um, no, I think that travel loyalty, right, is an important segment of the market, right? And it doesn't matter if you're an airline, hotel, a rewards and recognition company, or just a general loyalty program that's looking for other ways to engage with consumers. Because what we've seen is the gift card, reward and the merchandise reward is not as encouraging to the consumer as travel is, right? I mean, every one of my travel reward programs that are HR based for rewards and recognition are going gangbuster, right? And there's a reason for that because people, we learned from COVID, right? People want experiences and people want to travel, right? And so I think that if you're a loyalty program going, how do I get the engagement, right? Because people aren't coming back. I can definitely tell you that travel is one of those things that gets those consumers to come back to your site to engage with you for sure.
Amazing. Awesome. So, what's next for Switchfly as we move forward in 2025?
We're closing more deals, right? We've closed 8 new customers in the last, I don't know, 6 months. So for us, it's growing and expanding and launching new programs all around the world, and doing that very successfully. So it's really a growth. We're definitely on a growth curve, since we've added this ability kind of to be um, an all-in-one for a loyalty program. So not only are we the technology, we're everything else that goes along with it, right? So customer service, fraud prevention, merchant of record, all of that stuff, we're kind of travel in a box. So show up to their doorstep. If you need to plug this in 45 days, I can have you live. And that's really interesting because now you have the ability to go faster and engage more brands quickly, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we like to wrap up our interviews with our famous quickfire questions.
Yeah.
I like to try and keep these to one word or a short phrase to answer the question.
Okay.
Uh, so, how would you describe your work life?
Describe my work life. Probably whimsical.
That's fun. If you have a day or a week off from work, what are you doing?
I'm usually outdoors hiking or skiing.
Nice. If you could live in any city or country, where would you live?
Pucón, Chile, very specific.
Is that for the skiing?
There's skiing there, but it's beautiful.
Nice. If you could go back to school again, what would you study?
I'd probably go to law school.
Nice. What facet of your job would you like to know more about?
Um, Probably the psychology of marketing more.
And what facet of your job would you like to know less about?
Legal contracts.
Cool. So, what motivates you when you're tackling the challenges at Switchfly?
Um, what motivates me? Really just, getting things resolved, right? And like seeing if we can find answers quickly. I'm not a bureaucracy guy, so just getting there, getting an answer and moving on.
Cool. So, what do you draw inspiration from? What really lights your fire?
Uh, I draw inspiration from a friend of mine named Bob Goff, who wrote Love Does, which is a book for, how you change your life and do crazy things. So,
Awesome. So, what is your favorite sport or hobby?
uh, probably, well, outdoors, hiking, skiing, and sailing. So,
And what do you typically think about at the end of the day?
probably my family, and then, did I do something good today?
Awesome. Well, Noel, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today in our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series. We love having you as part of the Industry Voices podcast. It was really great getting your perspective on customer loyalty, and we look forward to learning more from you and the team at Switchfly throughout the year. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Leaders in Customer Loyalty today. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Leaders in Customer Loyalty podcast on your favorite platform and follow Loyalty 360 on YouTube and LinkedIn. And then please come back next week for another great episode of the Industry Voices podcast. Thanks again.